You have now seen all the magnificence of lot number 2, which consists actually of several collectibles. The overall prices that we're offering it as a starting bid is 15 million euro. I'm going to start with the watch, specifically with this set, the watch in this unique glass casing. So please take a close look at this Zantrell Freres watch. Actually, take a look at the photographs. Actually, the watch belonged to Empress Maria Fedorovna Romanova, mother of the last Russian emperor, Nicholas II. Let me give you some of the main and pertinent facts for this story. Previously, I've shown and described the watch more than once, actually quite a few times in my videos, and we're willing, like I've said, to provide all the information to a true and bona fide prospect. Right now, I'd like you to learn just a bit about who Maria Fedorovna really was, and I'd like to underscore the fact that she actually identified herself with the image of Mary Magdalene. And that's quite an important point in the symbology of this watch. Please take a look. Well, all right. Like I said, Maria Fedorovna likened herself to Mary Magdalene, the repentant sinner, or the prostitute as she's described in Catholicism, but one who then traveled the righteous path, helping others who also repented and granting succor to the needy. That's exactly how the Russian Empress Maria Fedorovna is portrayed in history, in Russian history, that is. So I'd like you to take into account this information about Mary Magdalene. Now, why am I saying this? Why? Because we're actually going to move on now and talk about the watch and all the things related to the watch, to the Empress herself, and to Mary Magdalene. All right. Right now, you can see for yourself that the image of Mary Magdalene and all the material evidence known to history in our society is directly related, actually, to this watch, directly related. I'd like to ask you to take another close look at the first video, where you'll see the glass, the casing for this watch. And now also take a look at Maria Magdalene's coffin and compare the two objects well. Compare the two. You know, I doubt we will find many critics asserting that these two artifacts don't have a lot of things in common, meaning this unique watch casing belonging to the Empress and the coffin of Mary Magdalene. I hardly believe we'll find people like that. And I also believe that this is exactly why she loved this watch so much and why it was fashioned in this exact way for the Empress. It's all connected to the image of Mary Magdalene, even the coffin. I mean, the casing is created after the coffin. This is quite an important point for the investor, the collector, and definitely for our story here. I'd like to mention here that I acquired these items at different times, but from the very same source. I've already described this in a previous video. This could be a whole epic story, actually, about me trying to purchase it for so many years. This glass case, I mean, and finally I did succeed in buying it. It's much more expensive, twice as expensive as the watch itself. And I got it in 2000, can't recall, 2005 or 2006. Also in Crimea, in Sevastopol actually, which is the city where Maria Fedorovna boarded a ship to emigrate abroad with what was left of the royal family. You know, all these facts together, the history of the watch and buying the case, this whole history of the royal family, and the fact that Maria Fedorovna emigrated from Sevastopol as Russia was going up in flames, all of these things tell us that the watch originally belonged to the Empress, as well as this unique case. All of them speak to the fact and describe the story. All right. Now, just take a brief slide from Wikipedia. It shows us exactly where Maria Fedorovna sailed from to flee from the blazing red and revolutionary Russia. And here I'm going to move on to the other collectible from Lot 2. It's the golden dirk that once belonged to the great Duke Mikhail Nikolaevich Romanov. But first, I'd like to give you some information about this man, about who he was, the Grand Duke. And let me emphasize that the second slide here tells us that he was married, and that's an important fact, or actually whom he was married to. It's an important fact in order to understand the insignia and the symbology of this golden dagger. And now I'm going to present excerpts from various expert evaluations about this golden dagger. And you can actually see for yourself that this unique item fully matches its scientific name. Completely so. And that is actually truly important for any collectible, that you give it the right scientific name. Now, as far as this dagger goes, and like the watch and other articles, we're not providing a very detailed photo gallery for it. And there's a reason for it. Let me tell you why. As soon as you publicly depict any cold weapon, especially in a way that can be thoroughly studied, where its shape and the nuances of its appearance can be seen and perused, then, all of a sudden you get a host of counterfeits and fakes that contain some elements of our sources of information. You see? So all these con artists in various countries use our catalogs, make copies, and create fakes, selling it to naive investors and pretending that this comes from us. And that is actually the reason. And so people fall for it. That is the reason why we don't put a photo gallery out. That's the reason we're going to provide complete information, including the full photo shoot, only to real prospects. As much as you like. We're definitely ready to provide it. But right now I'd like to show you these excerpts from expert evaluations, which corroborate the fact that this dagger actually belonged to none other than the Grand Duke Mikhail Nikolaevich Romanov. Actually, it's sufficient for any expert, especially a weapons expert, to just take a glance at this dagger, peruse the various symbols, the coats of arms, the emblems, in order to be certain, actually, that my words are truthful and are objective. Well, all right. Now, please do take a look at the slideshow of expert evaluations. All right. In order for the investor to understand why this is priced the way it is, I'm going to cite actually an example of how much such things are being sold for and are going for. Rather, actually, let me make a correction, were sold for. We're going to use two cold weapon collectibles. One is an Arabian dagger. It's rather unique, but it's also simple. It's not golden. And it went for over $3 million, over 15 years ago, mind you. You'll understand, right? I think that time itself brings this up from 3 million to over 5 million. Even if we only consider inflation, nothing else. I think you'd agree. The 2009 crisis basically multiplied all the prices twofold for all serious world-class and classic antiques, artifacts, and collectibles. That's just what happened. All right. I'd like you to consider now that today we know of 90 Chinese sabers. Actually, we know that 20 of them, 20, are part of private collections. And listen carefully, one was sold for 6 million and another for 7.5 million at different times. That's an investment instrument, and people chase after these collectibles. Now, compare that to our lot. One of the two artifacts is a golden dagger that belonged to the Grand Duke himself, and the other half of the lot belonged to the Empress, and the whole lot is 15 million. That's a rather modest amount compared to its investment capacity, the investment potential of all these articles. Now, take a look at this brief slideshow. You're now familiar with lot number 2, which is worth 15 million euro. Let me emphasize once again that these articles belong to the royal family. A dagger of the Grand Duke and a watch with a case belonging to the to the Empress Maria Fedorovna. In other words, these are world-class items. And I can tell you, based on information that you yourself can also find this information, that actual royalty is interested in and goes after such collectibles. The royal family. For example, the late Queen Elizabeth was one of the main keepers, actually, quantity-wise, of Romanov family collectibles, starting with the very first ruler of the dynasty, who was Mikhail Romanov, and ending with Tsar Nicholas II. And that's true. So, in our opinion, this lot is truly valuable, despite the fact that Putin's Russia majorly tainted all things Russian right now. You see, unfortunately. But in all truth, Russian history and Russian collectibles after the fall of Putin's empire, which will fall, will only go up in price. Investors, think about this carefully and about why I'm saying this. For example, right now, Byzantine artifacts and other antiques like those out of the Roman Empire or the Ottoman Empire, items that belong to Chinese or Japanese emperors from each and every epoch, each and every age, all these things are going up in price, and quite significantly, let me tell you. So, in our understanding, this lot is quite attractive for true connoisseurs of history, for real art lovers. And I'll emphasize this again, we're willing to help our buyer increase the value of this lot based on our own know-how. This will happen after the sale and based on the know-how that we possess. Thank you for your attention.